How you feeling? You got John Riggs here, and back in their day, Activision ruled the roost. They had so many great games on the Atari 2600. Everything they released was going to be an instant win, basically, on the old Atari system. So why not bring some of that success over to the NES? Well, I guess we'll find out in this video. Activision published 13 NES games according to NESguide.com. We're going to cover all of them in this video. We're taking a look at each one, we're going to rank them along the way, and that starts right now. Archon's a pretty neat one. If you've ever seen it or thumbed through it, or maybe you saw the back of the box, you're like, it's chess. It's not chess. It looks like it could be chess. Totally not chess. Like chess, it features these grids and these characters. You can choose the light side or the dark side. Different sides have different enemies, monsters, whatever you want to call them. And like chess, you take turns playing. The cool thing with this game, though, is once you're on the same piece, whether you attack them or they attack you, then it goes into an actual gameplay mode where you have to dodge their attacks, you have to attack them, depending on who you are, what you are. I mean, it's a pretty cool technique here. I'm not very good at this game. It's still a lot of fun playing. And it's just kind of cool to see what the other pieces can or can't do. Like they can summon things, or you can fly across the stage, or just move, a couple squares at a time or something like that. A lot going on with Archon for the NES. Decent game. I'm giving this one a C. I think it's worth checking out. Is Die Hard for the NES a Christmas game? It's so funny, this game goes from one of the most gorgeous title screens on any NES game. I mean, the graphics on this title screen are phenomenal. And then it looks like this when you're playing. That's a very weird kind of overhead angle. But you know what, it's something unique, gotta give it points for that. To use a newer game for an example, it has that kind of Among Us visibility, where you can't see everything all at once, but once you get to a certain area, then you can see someone, and if the enemy's there, they're gonna start shooting at you, or attacking you by some means. Of course, you can fight them back and steal their guns, steal their weapons, steal their ammo. It's Die Hard, based on the movie and everything like that. Decent game, I don't know. It's just, I can't get over how it looks. Just the look of it. That angle just throws me off. I'm giving this one a C as well. There's a lot of action going on with this game, and even like after you kill the enemy stays on the ground, doesn't disappear or anything, so that's kind of cool. It's just they could have done more with this game, I think. Galaxy 5000, kind of a fun competitive racing game here. Now it's odd, it gives you two options to control your ship, and both of them are not optimal. Instead of having like an accelerate button or a gas button, you just kind of push the D-pad in the direction you want to go. That's one way. And the other way is you hold up to accelerate, down to brake, but then while holding up left or right, tank controls turns you left or right depending on which angle your ship is at the time. And aside from that, it kind of reminds me of like an RC Pro-Am or maybe a rock and roll racing. You race, you have to go through a few laps, you can shoot the other enemies, you can jump, which is super helpful, Mario Kart style, you can jump across certain parts of the track, try to make a little shortcut for you. Doesn't have that same charm as RC Pro-Am, doesn't have that same fun factor as a rock and roll racing. It's still kind of a decent game. Just like Die Hard, they could have done a lot more with this game too. I'm also putting this game as a C. What else is interesting is more than half of the people who watch these videos, including this one, aren't even subscribed to my channel. If you could do me a huge solid, hit that subscribe button. It shows that you like videos like this, and I'll continue to keep on making them, man. I've already done a ton of them in the past. I've got a lot more coming up too, so you don't want to miss out. I say as we lead into Ghostbusters. This game has been on multiple platforms, and it's kind of confusing until you know how to play it. Once you know how to play it, it's less confusing. Doesn't mean it's any better. It's just less confusing. So the confusing part is you have to just get started, because you have to go to the shop and buy the stuff you need. You have to get the ghost trap. You have to get the other stuff that you can use to capture these ghosts, right? And then when you're kind of traveling around the city, then you can find these flashing buildings with those ghosts there. You can bust those ghosts, I suppose. There's a lot of driving in this game, and the driving is just monotonous. I could have done without the driving. But when it comes to actually busting the ghost part, it's okay. It's kind of fun. You set your trap, and then you control both of them. You can hit the button to go from one side to the other side. You can't cross the streams. Don't cross the streams. But once you capture the ghosts, then you move to the trap, hit your button, and it kind of sucks them all in and stuff like that. You get your money doing that too. Buy upgrades, get better stuff, and of course it all builds up to bust enough ghosts, get enough money, get everything you need, and then carry on from there. So I don't know. It's still awkward to play, not great. I'm giving this game a D. And then we have Ghostbusters 2. And I loved the movie Ghostbusters 2. Not as much as the first one, but I'm a huge fan of the second movie as well. And this game breaks my heart, because this game could have had a lot of fun. with it. Instead, we got this. It would have been almost acceptable if this was the game that was on LJN or THQ or something, but not Activision. Activision, don't do this to me. Not this for a Ghostbusters game. Come on. It's not great. I'm giving this game an F. And it's too bad too, because HAL Laboratories, I'm not gonna include it on this list because it's from a different company, but look out for new Ghostbusters 2 from HAL Laboratories. It's on the Famicom. It's one of the best games on the NES, and that is based on Ghostbusters 2. Such a fun game. That's not the version we got. This is the version we got. Predator is an interesting one. You know, it's funny, when I was going for a complete NES set once upon a time, I had all the big titles. I had Panic Restaurant, Flintstones 2, Surprise at Dinosaur Peak, you know, Bubble Bobble Part 2, Power Blade 2. I had all these great games. Predator was a game I didn't have. It's kind of considered, it's not quite a common, but it was just one I should have had by that point. And so I have a fond memory about Predator for those reasons too. The game itself is frustrating because you can't jump high enough. It's funny, you walk around with your gun, that's the graphics of your character, is you have a gun in your hand, but if you don't have any weaponry, then you're still punching. So it's like, you got nothing. I mean, you can pick up weapons later on too, but so much of this game, you're just, you know, you're punching enemies. You can get, you know, like I said, you can pick up lasers and grenades and stuff like that too. It has a very slippery mechanic. So like when you stop walking, then you still kind of slide just a little bit. So you have to really calculate your jumps. And from the get-go, from the first stage, it has these Super Mario Brothers original style, you know, small platform jumps from one side to the other. At least for me, I end up dying far more falling off of a cliff than I do from the actual enemies themselves. And the actual enemies themselves, well, there's a ton of them. A ton of different like alien type creatures on this game, and also like other Marines or, you know, people that you have to fight too. I don't show it in this gameplay, but every once in a while, like the final stages of the worlds or however that's set up, you turn into like, the graphics become super, super huge. And it just changes up the gameplay a little bit. And that's kind of cool to see every once in a while. Just something different, you know. Another one, kind of a frustrating game. It's okay. It's pretty good, but still with those jumps, makes it pretty frustrating. I'm also putting this game as a C. And believe it or not, I was born in the late 70s, grew up in the 80s, lived in the 90s. I have still never seen this movie. Maybe I should change that sometime. How about Rad Gravity? Well, it's the Adventures of Rad Gravity. The box stuck out to me when I went to go rent it because like the character's upside down. I was like, oh, cool. It's a game that you can walk on the ceiling. Not quite. Not all the time anyway. There are parts later on in the game where the gravity does flip around and you can walk on the ceiling. However, a lot of the game isn't. So that's interesting enough. Now this game takes place in Cyberpunk 2077. No, it doesn't. But it has this, that kind of look to it anyway. And your weapon, it's kind of like a lightsaber, but you just kind of poke them. It's like a little pokey saber. It's like a light shank. You're walking around this cyberpunk town with your light blinky, stabbing fools. And this game, it was almost worth the $3 rental to keep it overnight. I'm putting this game as a D. At least look at it. At least load it up on an emulator or something. But yeah, the Adventures of Rad Gravity with his light blinky. I'm telling you. Stealth ATF. Hey, if this game was uncommon, it'd be Stealth AF, right? Because you can't find it. It's all stealth, right? Come on, man. So in Stealth ATF, you play as a Stealth ATF fighter. I think the F in ATF stands for fighter. So you get to use a chance to play as one of these stealth fighters, right? And every game that looks like this, I always compare it to Top Gun for the NES, because that was one of those games that kind of like everyone played at the time. And it plays better than that, but still not as much. You can do barrel rolls, you can do little loop-de-flip-de doos. That's an actual aeronautical term, I promise. And if you angle down too far, you can crash. So that's that, too. They're fun to look at for a couple seconds. I'm giving this game a D as well. It's just like, I mean, yes, you play as a stealth. It's okay. It's just, it could be better. Oh, dear Lord. All right, so the very first thing you do is you go down the ladder and this happens. It's like the first thing that everyone does, right? It's like welcome to this game. The very first thing you do is die by going down the ladder. Come on. Again, this is supposed to be like the NES version of a better version of Pitfall. And Pitfall on the Atari 2600, it's one of the best Atari 2600 games there is. It's not hard to mess up. They messed it up. Now, one thing this game does have going for it, I want to be positive about this game. I try to be positive in everything I do in life. The map to this, if you zoom all the way out and look at the entire map, it's huge. There's a lot of playing field, there's a lot of playground, and you can go wherever you want. It's not like level 1, level 2, level 3. You can go over here, go over there. There's a lot to explore in this game, So, props for this game for giving us a huge kind of playground. The only problem is, you have a finite amount of bullets, which moves super slow. I've seen glaciers move faster than this. I've been in check stands with senior citizen coupon collectors, and those lines have moved faster than these bullets in this game. Everything can kill you. Not just spikes, but like, step on a spider, oh, you're dead. As I've said before, every game is someone's favorite game of all time. And I have a friend, his name is Pete, and he unironically loves this game. He also unironically loves Deadly Towers. I'm giving this game an F. I want to give a quick shout out, there is a team of people in Brazil, I believe, who took this game, remodified it, and made it 1,000 times better. And that ROM, you can find the ROM and patch it or whatever, that one's worth playing. That one's worth checking out. This one, Swordmaster, I would put up as maybe one of the top 5 most unknown games for the NES. Not really uncommon. It's a little it's uncommon. I'll give you that. It's uncommon. Not really rare, but I would put Swordmaster as one of the top 5. Like, that's a game. I've never heard of that game. I've never even seen that game. The game's actually pretty good. It really is. It has some of the best graphics on any Nintendo game I've ever seen. I'm not making this up. Please check this out. I love the multi-layer scrolling that this game has for the background. Now, it looks like it could be a platformer. It's not. There's not really any platforms, especially on this first level. But you just have your sword. If you pull back or whatever, you can have your shield as well. And you go along and kill off some enemies, and every once in a while, it comes to like a little boss fight, mini boss, something like that. This game is pretty cool. It's worth at least having a peek at. I'm going to give this game a B. I mean, compared to most of the other games, probably going to be an S at this point if I'm ranking them amongst themselves, which I always do in these videos. But no, B is fair in this game. I do wish it had some more platforming elements, because you're just going for a walk, and every once in a while you gotta stab a fool. Swordmaster, yeah, check it out. Three Stooges, man. Okay, the intro alone. Let me just play for you this intro here.
We're in the wrong game. Hey, this looks like a kid's game. You imbeciles.
The very first time I rented this game, I was like, oh, I think I got the wrong game or something like that. I actually had that feeling. I was like, is there a different game on here? Turns out, it turns into very, very Three Stooges-like, right? Well, the storyline is you gotta save the orphanage, you gotta raise a bunch of money, just like a classic Three Stooges episode. And by doing so, it has these little placards, and when you hit the button, game show style, you do that element, whatever it happens to be, whatever that round is. You can do it more than once, too, because you're gonna keep cycling through. And there's multiple ones you can choose from. There's this boxing one, but you're not a boxer in this one. You actually play the role of Larry Fine, where your violin broke, so you gotta run to the radio store, run back, because I want to say in the actual episode, if they played a lullaby, like the Rockabye Baby, the boxer who like you were challenging goes to sleep, and that was the purpose of it. So you gotta run, grab the radio, run back, do it in time. There's one where you're following this doctor and you have to pick up these little crosses and not hit the other people who are in the way. Get through that, you also make some money. The favorite might be the pie throwing. That's always a fun one, where you have to throw the pies and then dodge their pies as well. You can make a lot of money in this game doing this game. There's trivia, learn a little bit more about the Three Stooges and all that. The most annoying one probably is this oyster eating thing, where you have to eat the oyster crackers, but there's also live oysters in the bowl. It's not so much the fact that it's annoying, it has that weird momentum where you're kind of if you push it a little bit, you have to build up the momentum to scoop it with your spoon, these crackers. And if you don't do it in time, every once in a while it makes this annoying sound. And imagine, if you would, this sound coming up every 3 seconds. Annoying, right? I still like this game a lot. I just do. I really do. I'm putting this game as a B for me personally. You might have it as an F. If you do, I don't blame you for it. But I actually have a lot of enjoyment with this game. I still come back to it every once in a while, just for fun. And a quick bit of history, when I was in the 5th grade, I was part of this kind of art, talent, creative crew of people. And one time, one of our things was we actually put together a Three Stooges sketch because one of the other guys could do a very good curly vocal impersonation. Now, although I had a full head of hair at the time, I played the role of Larry Fine, and now karma is paying me back the role of Larry. Thunderbirds. are Go. And this game can go. It's okay. It's a decent game. It's kind of fun. It's an overhead shooter. There's different ships you can play as, different levels you can choose from of where to go, but they're all kind of the same overhead shooter style. The overhead shooting, it's okay. It's pretty decent for an NES game. Interesting that you would use this, Thunderbirds. Because the Thunderbirds came from a TV show from back in the day. It's one of the creepiest TV shows you could ever watch because it's all using these puppets, but the puppets aren't like puppets. They look like from Mr. Rogers' Land of Make-Believe. They kind of like artificial grin and their faces. There's like stories of like in Japan and in Korea of those like creepy haunted dolls. These I think are also kind of haunted just by how they creepy look. How super creepy, yeah. It's average, it's a C. Ultimate Air Combat is another shooter. They have a few shooters from Activision for the NES. This one has something very, very cool. I wish the entire game played like the second part of the shooter missions. But let's lead into that. So first of all, you have just your kind of Top Gun looking. We've seen this before. It's very much so like that stealth ATF gun we just saw a little bit ago. It's okay, but it's like, come on, give me more than that, right? Well, this game does, because this game afterwards, it turns into this kind of view. And for the time, especially leading into games like Jungle Strike, Desert Strike, I loved that style of game. I just like that kind of like, fly around and bomb things and stuff like that. And it kind of just turned into that for the NES. So cool. Still, though, it could have been better. And I'm putting this game as a C. The mode of Activision for the NES, for sure. If the entire game was just that kind of overhead part, it may rank higher, for me anyway. But no, I'll give it a C. It's worth checking out. I will always have a fondness for Activision, because you can book into the NES with what awesome games they had for the Atari 2600, and then like the Tony Hawk games. I've been doing this ranking series for a while now, including some Super Nintendo games too, so I got a huge playlist you can binge right now. This one in particular is the one you need to watch right this very second. So click on this, we'll see you soon.